Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Top Leaders. I'm Jen Anderson, and I am on a mission to help you become the tech leader that everyone wants to work for. Today on the show, I wanted to share with you some insights around leadership that have come forward as I have done hundreds of coaching sessions over this last year. And so something that is really important that I wanted to point out to you as I do this recap with you is that in the end, one thing I'm noticing is that leaders are fried. You know that little emoji where it's got like the brain that's exploding, right? I'm pretty sure that emoji was created for leaders. Pretty sure that it was. So let me share with you a little bit about what I've been able to glean from all of these hundreds of coaching sessions. I'm going to give you some good insights. So one thing I want you to think about, and you may not be aware of these statistics, but did you know that 44% of leaders are planning to move to a new company in order to advance their careers? Did you know that 35% of employees identify their boss as a major source of stress? 35% of your people are identifying you as a major source of stress. Furthermore, did you know 77% of organizations report that leadership is lacking? So this is companies, their own little surveys. 77% are finding and realizing that leadership is lacking. And also, did you know that only 5% of companies have implemented leadership development across all levels? So as you're listening to these insights that I have to share with you, and as you think of that in context of these statistics, my friends, as leaders, there is some pretty serious stuff that's going on that we really need to acknowledge and that needs to be dealt with, because if this stuff isn't dealt with, we're going to have some big problems on our hands coming forward. Okay, so first of all, insight number one, leaders who exercise consistently are able to withstand the stress better. Yeah. One thing I noticed is that as I was going through and I was reviewing the notes from all these different coaching sessions, is the people who they themselves take time to exercise on a regular basis. So I'm not talking like that little gratuitous walk to the park, play with the kids, or go walking around the mall or something like, no. I'm not talking about that kind of occasional thing. I'm talking about the leaders who consistently exercise. They are the ones who are able to withstand the stress that comes at them because they're taking care of themselves, right? It's that dopamine hit that you get inside of your brain that comes because of exercise. And this doesn't mean that they are the ones who have all the sexy bods and the beach bod and stuff like that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people who exercise on a regular basis. So this is like 3 to 4 times a week. Those are the ones who are able to withstand stress. Now, I am not a personal trainer. I couldn't even begin, all right, to say anything about that. I'm just simply reporting and letting you know as I'm recapping things that I've seen here in 2022, is the people who exercise on a regular basis, they're doing a better job with handling the stress as a leader. So reflect on that for yourself. What's your exercise program look like, right? Okay, insight number 2 is that leaders who recognize successes, even small successes, have a better outlook on the future. And it is so true. I notice consistently that the leaders who could really stop and say, wait a minute, this little tiny success here, this thing is worth noting. Those are the leaders who had a much better outlook and were much more in tune with really what was going great for themselves and for their teams. And their teams seem to respond to it as well. So those, again, the leaders who focus on even little successes, they did better. So you might be thinking, well, if it's a success, it's got to be something big. For example, it's got to be a big, huge overhaul of some kind of cybersecurity or something in the company. No, it doesn't have to be like, it can be the little things. I remember once I was on a coaching call with a client, and I had asked him, I said, tell me about a recent success. And he held up this mug of tea and he said, this is my success. I took 20 minutes before having this coaching call, and I went and I brewed my very favorite tea. And I'm going to enjoy this tea while we're having this coaching call. He said to me, that is a success. And as I paid attention and I looked at the trends, the little things like that are what's adding up, you guys. So don't wait for it to be something huge and monstrously amazing and tremendous for it to be a success. Recognize the little things. Those are those moments where you're winning the day. Insight number 3, leaders who know that they're terrible in some aspects of leadership are actually more loved by their people. So gathering feedback, finding out details about what your people think, that's part of some of the stuff that I do with you as a coach. I take you through my coaching program. And the leaders who recognize that there's some aspects about their leadership that they're really terrible at. They're just like, I suck at this. I'm not good at this. Those are the leaders that actually have a higher percentages of people who really truly love them. So maybe acknowledging the facts that you're terrible might actually help you to be a better leader. Insight number 4, leaders who know their personal brand have more clarity and direction on how to show up at work. So any of the leaders that I worked with who really dialed in and really, really, truly went through the process of figuring out their personal brand, and then they leveraged it going forward, huge difference for them from the beginning of the coaching to the end of the coaching time, like almost in some situations, night and day difference. And the thing that I found out from most of them, again, as I went through and I reviewed the notes, is that clarity. You guys, think about that for yourself. If you're worried and coming into 2023 and you're feeling like that emoji with its head exploding, right? Maybe it's part of your personal brand. And so if you don't have that thing nailed down, please send me a message. Let's talk about what this can look like for you. I can totally help you to determine your personal brand. And then we're going to leverage that thing to help you have better direction on how you want to show up at work, like these other people did as well. Okay, insight number 5. Leaders who have empathy and spot the mental health challenges for themselves and their teams are winning the day. Yeah, it was really interesting to see how many times people talked about mental health and the increase of that compared to previous years with coaching. It's a big uptick. And so if you're not acknowledging it, if you're not seeing it, and I am not suggesting that you need to go out and, go get your PhD and become a licensed therapist or something like that. That's not where I'm going with this. I'm just simply saying acknowledging and recognizing that people are struggling and that there's something happening for them. That's a big deal. Okay. And if that's something that you're uncomfortable with, well, let's talk, right? Let's help you figure out a way that can help you so that you can make sure that you're connecting with people. That leadership quality of empathy is a big deal. Empathy as a leader is something that is sorely missed. And I've got more information coming about that in the future. That'll be some additional content that I'll be sharing with you in 2023. But that's the big thing, you guys. And that leads to people feeling better. And if you look back at those statistics I shared with you at the beginning of this show, for example, that 35% of employees identify their boss as a major source of stress. Okay, 35%. And that is right in line with the mental health numbers that we see, that on an average, about 35 to 38% of people are going to experience some kind of mental health episode every year. Every year. Okay, so that means at any given point, a third of your team is dealing with it, right? So if you don't have the ability to stop and have that empathy, you might want to look at this and figure out what you can do to help yourself. And again, I can help you with those if you're just like, I don't even know where to begin, right? Okay, number 6. Like I was just mentioning a moment ago, leadership quality of empathy. There's also a really interesting leadership characteristic as well that is all about championing your people. Okay, championing them and investing in them. That is a big deal. Yes, your employees want competitive compensation. All the surveys are showing that stuff. They want competitive compensation. They're also looking for a healthy workplace to work in. But a key thing that they're looking for in 2023 is career development opportunities. And so it's been very interesting as I reflect back on 2022, the leaders who thrived were the ones who were investing in their people. Okay. The leaders who were not thriving were the ones who were not investing. They didn't lean in, it didn't push and say, what are we going to do? How am I going to find this budget? Right. So the leaders who were kind of like, meh, well, they told me, they just told me there's no budget. The leaders who said, no, there's budget. I know there is. And we're going to figure this out. Those are the kinds of leaders that made a huge difference. They not only felt better for themselves and about themselves, but they also felt better and did better for their people too. So think about that for yourself. That's an amazing opportunity to lean into that leadership characteristic of championing your people, right? And being that champion for them. And also those leaders, they've experienced less attrition of the right people, okay? Sure, you're always going to have some attrition. It's going to happen. Maybe there's some people you do want to see leave, right? But there's some people you're like, I really want to keep them. They're fabulous, right? Okay, what are you going to do to champion them and to invest in them, okay? Insight number 7 is that the leaders who are clear on the goals of the company have teams that are performing better. It was fascinating. It was almost, again, night and day different that the leaders who did not have clarity on the goals for their team, their department, their unit, their organization, etc., all those levels, when they didn't have that, their teams were not performing as well versus those leaders who had clarity at all those levels of goals from their team, their little unit, all the way up to the company goals. When they're clear about all of those goals, their teams performed better. And it's because the leader was able to articulate and hold people accountable to those as well. So if you're looking, thinking, what happened in 2022 as you're doing a retrospective, look at that. Are you clear on the goals? And if you're not clear on the goals, then likely your people aren't either. And if they're not clear, then they're just kind of running all over the place. People are going to be looking busy, right? Super not helpful. All right. So those are the 7 insights I wanted to share with you from the 2022 review and insights. In the end, as I look at all of this feedback and from all of these hundreds and hundreds of coaching sessions that I had, the leaders who thrived in 2022 were those who invested in themselves and in their team. And so as you are thinking ahead, take a moment and think ahead to December 2023. What kind of leader do you want to be? Right? So you have an opportunity a year from now to have that opportunity to review and think and look back on your personal brand as a leader, your personal brand in the workplace, right? What do you want that to be? And if you're not even sure of what it is, let's first get together. Let's get this thing nailed down. Let's determine what your personal brand is. So message me. We can have a consultation. We'll discuss how this coaching can really help you to become the tech leader that everyone wants to work for in 2023. Thank you so much, my friends. It's been great to share these 2022 leadership review and insight recap with you. Thanks for joining me here on today's Top Leaders, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. Happy New Year.